This journal entry contains frank and honest thoughts about suicide. If you or anyone you know suffers from depression or has talked about suicide, please contact the Suicide Prevention Lifeline. The number is 1-800-273-8255 or visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org.
The following account is real. Names have been changed to protect the living and the innocent. This journal contains language and content that may not be suitable for all listeners.
Is it exciting to work in a funeral home and pick up dead bodies for a living? Sure, but that's a very small part of the job. Working at a funeral home is a lot like any other gig. After a while, it becomes a never-ending, repeating cycle of busy work with a smattering of dead bodies sprinkled in to make things interesting. Most days go by without incident, bleeding into the next. What I've found is there isn't always a point. My name is Grant, and these are my funeral home stories. Chapter 3. Hotel Drain Cleaner Suicide. Generally, the day starts at 8 a.m. It's August going into my sophomore year of music school. It's Tuesday and supposed to be about 90 with 70% humidity. With this in mind, I dress for summer. Today I'm wearing tan dress slacks, a white shirt, yellow tie, and a blue blazer with gold buttons. I like to start my day by avoiding all responsibility for as long as possible by picking up the grounds, cleaning the glass doors, handrails, and checking all the light bulbs and fixtures around the building. These small jobs require no supervision, so I can meander as long as I like, within reason. Brian, the funeral director opening up with me this morning, tells me there's a body at the crematory that needs to be finished by 5 p.m. today, so we need to make that a priority. In the funeral industry, when someone in a position above you says "we," that means you're going to be stuck doing it yourself. I grab the keys to one of our fleet minivans and head to the garage. A fleet sounds pretty impressive, huh? Well, it kinda is. Currently we have 2 black Cadillac limousines, 2 black Chrysler minivans, 2 black Cadillac DeVilles, and 2 custom black Cadillac hearses. A big part of our daily routine is fleet maintenance. It's our funeral home's policy to make sure that our vehicles are in as close to perfect condition as possible when driving around town or out on a funeral or making a removal. We want to be perceived as neat and detail-oriented. If a funeral home doesn't respect itself to maintain its vehicles, what kind of respect will it pay your loved one? With this in mind, I run the van to the car wash. It's another great time waster. Having essentially done nothing with the first 2 hours of my day, I arrive at the crematory feeling accomplished. Funeral homes can be boring places, so you get pretty good at stretching every activity to the maximum amount of time before people start asking questions. It's easy. One time I fell asleep in the lobby of our funeral home for 5 hours without a single disturbance. I wonder if I could pull that off today. I see our oldest and laziest funeral director as he's dropping off a body at the crematory. He informs me that the toilet in the office is clogged again, so be careful. Ned doesn't normally pass along maintenance information unless he's subtly telling you to fix it. I tell Ned I'll take a look at it as he gets in his van and drives away. The door closes behind me. I walk my blazer and car keys up to the front office through a large warehouse containing 2 industrial body coolers, an industrial grinder, and a state-of-the-art crematorium, beautiful and brand new. The crematory is essentially an oven that takes up an entire corner of the warehouse. The front control panel looks like something out of Willy Wonka's inventing room, and its entire front face is covered with industrial-grade semi-reflective steel. There's a 200-pound door that opens the mouth of the machine, revealing a brick-lined rectangle just bigger than a casket. This is where the magic happens. There are several sources of flames, but there's one giant primary source that sounds like a jet engine and spits fire onto bodies like I imagine a dragon would, if dragons were real. After that, the fragments are raked out and processed through the industrial grinder. Just imagine a big steel blender that can turn human bones to dust in under 30 seconds. It's pretty cool. The other part of the warehouse is mostly storage for cremation containers. A cremation container is basically a human-sized cardboard box with a piece of plywood at the bottom. Most people who get cremated don't waste their money on a casket. They buy one of these. Why spend $4,000 on a maple casket when you can spend $75 on a pretty sweet cardboard box? I mean, it's just going to be lit on fire and reduced to ash, so fuck it, save your money. When I get to the office, I head to the bathroom to check out the toilet. Definitely clogged. Ned left the plunger in the sink, still wet from his failed attempt at handiness. That must be a deep clog. I look under the counter to see if we have any liquid drain cleaner. We don't. I'll go pick some up after I start cremating this body. I didn't realize it then, but I was going to spend most of my day thinking about drain cleaner. But it won't have anything to do with toilets. The body I'm supposed to cremate is already on the hydraulic body loader that we use to move bodies from the cooler to the mouth of the machine. Before I can push the body in, I need to do one last minute check. I need to see if this person has a pacemaker. Why, you ask? Well, it's a simple answer. Pacemakers explode if they get cremated and will totally fuck up your machine. Before every cremation, the technician must remove and dispose of any pacemaker in the body. Remove and dispose? That's a delicate enough term for cutting a pacemaker out of someone's chest, right? I pop the lid to the cremation container, revealing a man, eyes staring directly into mine. Friendly enough face, but the fear, anxiety, and hollowness in his eyes distract me. His mouth is twisted as if the last moment of his life was a surprise. I'm assuming the surprised look on his face has something to do with the baseball-sized hole in the center of his forehead. I'm taken back a bit by this sight. I put the lid of the container down and look at his paperwork near the grinder. Cause of death? Car accident. Well, that explains the hole in his head. And the pretty surprised look. He must have saw it coming. Poor guy. I imagine a car bursting through the cement walls of the warehouse, hitting me at 80 miles per hour, pushing some blunt object through my forehead. What did he see? What did it sound like? I'm left wondering what led this man to this moment. I can't even imagine. I try to imitate his face as I check for the pacemaker. He's clean. I can't quite match the intensity of his horrified look, so I close the container and push the man into the machine. The rollers spin even after the body is off the lift. I close the door and flip all the appropriate switches. Okay, I have 3 hours to kill. Let's fix a toilet. I grab my things from the front office and run to the hardware store just up the street to pick up the drain cleaner. But what about the body being cremated, you ask? Well, since we aren't baking cookies, we aren't really worried if anything gets burned. Extending the length that the body sits in the retort will help eliminate any possibility of soft tissue remaining. The longer cremation times also make the bones more brittle, so they're easier to pulverize in the grinder. I'm not sweating it though. Plus, I need that drain cleaner. I don't want people to think I broke that toilet and didn't fix it like an asshole. Ned. The store has 2 options in drain cleaner, a name brand drain cleaner and a generic version. Is there really a difference other than the $4? I pick up the generic version. On my way back from the store, my phone rings. It's Brian. I figure he's calling because I'm taking too long and he wants a status update. Panicked, I answer the phone with a slurry of words. Hey Brian, our body's being cremated. I had to pick up drain cleaner to fix the toilet. I'm on my way back right now. There's a silence on the line for a moment. Okay, cool man. We've got a death call. Meet me back at the funeral home. We'll take one of the hearses since Ned went MIA with the other van. I'll get it ready and I'll meet you in the parking lot. Relieved that I'm not in trouble, I hang up and drive to meet Brian. We're driving now. Brian sips a protein shake out of a filthy shaker cup. You know, I see him drink out of that thing every day, but I've never seen him wash it. I'm not gonna mince words when it comes to Brian. He's basically a frat guy that grew up and stumbled into a career that he didn't love. Brian wanted to be a competitive bodybuilder. Like, for real. This guy was on the juice and totally fucking Looney Tunes. He was in decent enough shape, but it's hard to tell under sport coats and suit jackets. Brian reminds me of the kind of guy you see at the gym screaming and throwing his weights around so everyone is forced to pay attention to him. I'm mostly indifferent towards Brian. He was a nice enough guy, but we didn't have anything in common. He's basically wallpaper. I could walk by him every day without paying him any mind. Sorry, Brian. Brian puts down his shaker cup and tells me that we're heading to a police call at an unnamed hotel chain on the east side of town by the toll road. Female, mid-40s, suicide. Room 125 by the pool. I nod to Brian and wonder what kind of suicide it is. Hanging? Gunshot? Pills? My brain cycles through the possibilities. Brian gets a squirrely look in his eye and asks me if I've ever gone to a hotel to make a removal. I tell him I haven't. Brian's eyes widen with excitement. For the 15-minute duration of our trip to the hotel, Brian proceeds to tell me horror story after horror story of hotel calls he got back at his old job in the city. Drug deals gone wrong, grisly unsolvable murders, and one story that stood out in particular and left me completely unsettled. He told me about this guy that lit himself on fire in a hotel bathtub. Brian told me that he was surprised that the gasoline that the man poured all over himself stayed contained in the bathtub and didn't spread the fire. That's a pretty interesting way to light yourself on fire. One bathtub, one can of gas, one match. Poof! How did the man know it wouldn't spread out of the bathtub? And who chooses to be burned alive in a hotel bathroom? I certainly wouldn't. I'm thinking about what it must feel like to be consumed by fire. A single flash followed by an unbearable, inescapable pain. I feel my face flush and that tingly feeling runs down my spine. I'm thinking about every possible inch of my body searing and popping without any relief. Yeah, hotels are fucked up, Brian says as he grins ear to ear, gripping the steering wheel excitedly. I nervously giggle and turn the AC up to high. Tiny sweat bubbles are running down my neck and being absorbed by my collar. It's wet now. We park the van under the portico by the entrance of the hotel. I'm still thinking about what Brian said. Hotels are fucked up. So many people must die in hotel rooms every year, and I'm guessing they probably don't have to disclose if something really, really bad happens in your room. I wonder how many people have died in hotel rooms I've stayed in. Brian and I take the stretcher out of the van and lock its legs in place as a young couple in beach clothes walks by and gives us a well-deserved troubled look. Giant electronic doors slide open as we approach and welcome us to the hotel. We're in the lobby now. A police officer that appears to be flirting with the receptionist at the front desk ends his conversation and walks over to us. He tells us that we've got a suicide in 125, drain cleaner. I perk up. I just bought drain cleaner. It looks like she drank it mixed with fruit punch in the bathtub, but then had second thoughts. She did make it to the phone, we think to call for help, but her organs were already liquefying and failing, or whatever the fuck they do when you drink drain cleaner. She died with the phone in her hand. Brian's nodding his head and biting his lower lip while listening to the officer. I'm doing less. I'm standing completely still. I hear what the officer's saying, but I'm not comprehending because I'm imagining what it would be like to drink drain cleaner. That stuff can eat through years of gunk and build up in your pipes in minutes. Imagine what it would do to the soft tissue inside your body. I'm having sympathetic burning sensations in my throat and stomach, thinking about the solution working its way down my esophagus and into my belly. Brian slaps me on the arm with his notepad and says, "Let's do this." The burning sensation fades instantly. As we move through the lobby, we pass an empty business center on our right and an American-style diner serving an early bird dinner special on our left. Pushing the stretcher behind Brian and the officer, I make eye contact and smile at an elderly couple eating their $9 entrees. They give the same peculiar look the couple gave us outside. We move forward and I think about the body I started cremating an hour before. Most of his tissue is probably breaking down and separating from the bone at this point. He should be done by the time I get back. I hope the toilet is easy to fix. I'm questioning the potency of the off-brand drain cleaner I bought earlier. I don't want to have to call a plumber. We enter what I can only really think to describe as the hotel's great room. There are 3 floors of rooms, each with a large picture window that looks out to the pool area. The pool is an average size and is surrounded by chase lounges, tables, and large fake exotic potted plants. The hotel really hasn't done much with the decor. We move to the far side of the pool and walk down a long carpeted perimeter path, making our way to room 125. As I walk, I look at the room numbers and feel like I'm playing Monopoly, trying to figure out where we'll land on the board. We pass 117. Okay, I think we'll be down by the corner. I see one family sitting inside the gated pool area. They're having a sweet little pool party picnic. 2 kids are playing catch and splashing in the pool. I make eye contact with the father while he's opening a small jar of pickle relish. Putting the relish down, he looks at the stretcher I'm pushing and taps his wife on the shoulder. She appears concerned, but seems more interested in her turkey sandwich. We reach the end of the path, and just as I suspected, room 125 is at the corner next to the ice machine and the fire hose. My eyes are drawn to a large orange warning sign on the maintenance closet near the soda machine. Dangerous chemicals. Harmful if ingested. Is it a coincidence that I noticed this? Or is this foreshadowing? I notice the splashing in the pool has stopped. All 4 members of the picnic family are now staring at us, waiting for something to happen. The ice machine kicks on. The officer slides an electronic key into the lock. It opens. We wheel the stretcher in. The door slams behind us. All of the lights in the room are on. There's a picture window looking out to the pool and a regular-sized back window looking out to the parking lot. Both of their curtains are closed. There's a bathroom on my right and a small closet with an ironing board, 3 wooden hangers, and a plastic bag for the hotel's dry cleaning service. Above that, there's a safe. It's open. The air conditioning is on high and the cool breeze from the vent above me makes my sweaty collar uncomfortably chilly to the touch as it presses against the back of my neck. The main part of the hotel room was pretty standard with a desk, love seat, TV, and dresser. There's an end table with an alarm clock, lamp, and a telephone missing its handset sitting between 2 queen-size beds. Am I forgetting anything? Oh yeah, there's a naked dead body laying on its face between the two beds. Normal hotel stuff. Brian and the officer walk over between the beds and take a look at the woman's body. There isn't any sense in all three of us crowding around the bodies, so I peek my head into the bathroom. If you were only looking at the bathroom counter, you might think this is someone's house by the sheer amount of items scattered about. 2 filled makeup bags with the tops unzipped and opened. Dental floss, toothbrush, toothpaste, shaving cream, hairbrush, and a tube of bright red lipstick. My eyes notice a familiar white bottle towering over the other items on the counter. It's drain cleaner. I recognize this bottle in particular from the trip I took to the store earlier. It's the more expensive name brand drain cleaner I avoided buying and saved $4. I just wasn't willing to pay the extra $4. And now I'm kind of having buyer's remorse. There's an unopened pack of razor blades sitting next to the big white bottle with a small orange price tag peeling off its packaging. Were these blades her contingency plan if the drain cleaner didn't work? It must have been. Why else would she have a pack of razor blades in a hotel bathroom? Across from the counter is a shower bathtub combo unit that's half filled with pink water. Since the razor blades are unopened, I assume the pink color in the water must be coming from inside her body. Maybe blood and vomit? Perhaps it's the lining of her stomach, or maybe she just spilled fruit punch in the bathtub. I don't know. The white tile floor has several small puddles of drying pink water and blood. Thick, coagulated blood. The blood and water on the floor is probably a result of the woman rushing out of the tub wet, frantically trying to figure out how to reverse her decision, coughing and spitting up her insides all the way to the telephone. Did she realize getting out of the tub that there was no coming back? Did she know that regardless of her best efforts, she would be dead in minutes? How agonizing was her pain? Was she in shock, or could she feel herself melting from the inside out? If the blood and water on the floor isn't completely dry, then this must have happened pretty recently. I bet it happened late last night, and I bet a maid probably found her this morning after she missed checkout. My eyes follow the blood out of the bathroom, and I register that the blood is creating a trail to the body between the beds. I wonder how long it took to crawl to the phone while puking up blood and pieces of herself. Thick globs of blood sit on the scotch-guarded, gaudy, honeycombed pattern carpet. It's disgusting. I wipe the sweat off the back of my neck and think about the body I'm cremating and the clogged toilet in the front office. Is it weird that I'm thinking about a toilet right now? Brian looks over and asks me if I'm ready. Honestly, I'm thinking more about whether or not I made the wrong selection in drain cleaner for the clog back at the crematory. I should have just bought the name brand stuff. Did the woman who drank the drain cleaner buy the name brand because she heard the generic option wasn't strong enough to handle the big jobs? I really don't want to call a plumber. Pushing the thoughts of the toilet out of my mind, I tell Brian I'm ready. The officer and I switch positions, and now I'm standing in between the 2 queen beds with Brian. I look down and see the woman's defeated and empty body for the first time and think to myself that this couldn't have been the peaceful death that she imagined when she planned this. There's just too much panic. The woman is naked, lying on her stomach. Her curly hair is pulled back into a ponytail. Her left hand was wrapped up in the spiral cable that connects the telephone handset to the receiver. It looks almost as if she crumbled underneath herself right as she was grabbing the phone. Who was she gonna call? Did she even get a chance to dial a number? I reposition myself. The woman's face is lying in a pool of blood. That blood is coming from her nose and mouth. Her eyes are open. I squat to take a closer look. Looking at this woman up close, I notice something incredibly sad. She's wearing makeup. Like, all of her makeup. I recognize the color on her lips as the lipstick from the bathroom. She just wanted to feel pretty when she died. I recognize the expression on her face as familiar. It's almost the same look I saw staring at me out of a cremation container earlier this morning. Remember the guy with the hole in his head that's currently on fire? She's basically giving me the same look. Both the man from earlier and the woman before me share the same expression. No smile, no glint of hope. Just fear and a horrified curiosity made all the more troubling by the stillness. Just 2 eyes wide open, staring vacantly into nothingness. I can feel my face contort as I look at her. Her eyes are much sadder than the man's this morning. Clearly, this didn't go as planned. How long after drinking the drain cleaner did it take for her to feel the pain and start bleeding out of her mouth? How much pain was she in before she drank the drain cleaner? Did the pain exceed her expectations? If she could have reached help, what would she have expected? Her insides were already dissolving inside her body. Not being able to reach someone must have been agonizing. She just needed somebody to tell her it was going to be okay. One last time. She died terrified and alone, Also, I'm realizing now, I haven't seen a cup anywhere in this hotel room. How did she drink the drain cleaner? Did she just drink it out of the bottle? I stand back up and step on one of the hotel's navy blue pens laying on the floor next to the woman's body. The cap is missing and the non-writing end of the pen is chewed up. She must have written a note. I scan the room for a note, an explanation. Anything to tell me why she did this. The officer sees me looking around and basically reads my mind. There was a note written on hotel stationery over by the TV. He points to the dresser. One of the other officers grabbed it and took it to the station for the family. He told me they found the letter next to a small ice bucket filled with the drain cleaner and fruit punch. Well, that answered 2 of my questions. I couldn't imagine writing my last words on hotel stationery. That feels hasty. Was this a spur-of-the-moment suicide? It must have been. There's basically no signs of preparation here. I asked the officer what the note said. He takes a beat and says, "I didn't read it." He smirks a bit with a twinkle in his eye. He's lying. That guy totally read it. I know he did. And he won't tell me anything. Ugh. Brian takes a white sheet off the stretcher and lays it on the ground next to the woman. I grab the woman's arms while Brian grabs her legs. We flip her on her back, revealing a front which is stained dark red from the blood that pooled while she's been down on her face and stomach. Her eyes are still open and the right side of her face is stained from the blood she's been laying in. The color of the blood around her nose and mouth matched her lipstick perfectly. Her light blue eyeshadow pops and stands out as it's the only color on her face that isn't red. We place her on the sheet, flipping the excess around her body like a mummy. Brian and I avoid the blood on the ground and on the sheet and lift her onto the stretcher. As we ready the stretcher to leave, I notice the paintings hung above the beds for the first time. Bowls of fruit sitting on tables. The banality of these paintings is offensive. No artistic statement, no original idea. Just fruit on a table. I feel sorry for anyone who dies in a room with art so aggressively unoffensive. I look down at the phone handset sitting next to a pool of blood and I'm left wondering what really led this woman to this moment. I can't even imagine. The officer swings the door open and we wheel the stretcher out. The woman's body shakes as the stretcher wheels across the threshold from the room to the hallway. The warning sign for dangerous chemicals catches my attention again. I imagine the woman portioning out the drain cleaner into the hotel ice bucket. She must not have seen the sign outside her door. I see the little boy from the pool earlier, bundled up in a towel with wet red hair. We make eye contact as I'm pushing the stretcher down the walkway by the pool. I grin and look away. As we leave the hotel, I thought about all the reasons the woman had to drink that drain cleaner. And then I thought about all the reasons she had not to drink that drain cleaner. Later that day, I find myself back at the crematory. By the time I got back, the body I started before I left was finished. I raked him out and processed the remains. I walked his ashes and the drain cleaner I purchased earlier up to the front office. I pop the cap off with my thumb and walk into the bathroom. I look into the mirror and imagine the mirror in the hotel bathroom. Makeup on the counter. Pack of razor blades by the sink. I hold the large white bottle of drain cleaner up to my nose, close my eyes and smell. The harsh chemicals burn my sinuses. I look at the bottle and see a list of chemicals that I can't spell, let alone pronounce. I empty about half of the contents of the bottle into the toilet next to the sink. I watched it sink and disappear in the drain. It's working. I see a couple of bubbles and imagine what the cleaner would feel like sitting in my stomach. I sit down next to the toilet and think about the woman as the water level in the bowl begins to drop. Why did she do it? Who was she calling? Did she feel regret immediately, or did it take a few minutes? What was her last thought? I won't ever find out the answers to these questions, and that's fine because it's not my job to ask questions. That's what it's like working at a funeral home. An abundance of questions with no answers. The clog gives way, the water swirls down and empties out of the bowl, and I think to myself, what was the point of this? My name is Grant, and these are my funeral home stories. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If you did, be sure to subscribe and tell a friend. Have a question or comment? Follow me on social media, @PomoandKitch. Also, be sure to listen to my album, Pomo and Kitch, Fetch, available wherever you listen to music. Thanks for listening.